Robbie throws his head back in disbelief and sighs. Looks like this is gonna have to wait until I get back. Emilie wraps her arms around him for a minute before he gets up to leave. While the team is away, she decides to pass the time by walking around the plane. She throws on the clothes Simmons found for her. She sees Gabe hanging out in the cargo area, looking around. "Hey," she says. "How you feeling?" "I don't know," he shrugs. "Why didn't he tell me he was involved in S.H.I.E.L.D.? I'm his brother. He could trust me not to tell anyone he's a secret agent. All those times he had to go out of town, I thought he was up to no good." "I'm sure he had the best intentions." "Yeah," he pauses. "Everything we had was in that house. We had so many memories, and now they're all gone." "They're not gone," she assures him. "They're still in there," she says, pointing to his head. "You just have to visit them more often, so they don't fade away." "You're right." He spins himself around in his new chair. "Check out my new ride. It's manual and automatic, even has a built-in Bluetooth." "It's S.H.I.E.L.D. Surprised they don't have a levitating one," she says before leaving him to go to the lab where she finds Simmons. "Busy?" Emilie asks. "Always. Did you need something?" answers Simmons. "Just something to pass the time," she says while looking around at the lab equipment. "Oh, I see. I guess this isn't the most recreational place for a non-S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. You're more than welcome to hang out here with me." "This plane is huge," says Emilie. "Fitz designed it. Zephyr 1. That's what he named it. It is quite an improvement from our last air transport. She can stay in the air for up to 6 weeks. 6? asks the surprised Emilie. Simmons nods and continues looking over some research notes. "You said you'd never gone through pterogenesis. How did you come into your powers, if you don't mind me asking? Were your parents inhuman?" "Not that I know of. There was a house fire when I was 5. I remember running down the stairs to my mom, who was on the floor coughing. Smoke had filled the room. I tried to get her up, but she was so heavy. I remember sitting next to her crying for my dad to help us. It got hard to breathe. I put my head on my mom. I thought I was going to die. My dad came into the room, crawling on the floor over to us. I remember him whispering, 'Not your time, not yet.' He kissed me on my forehead, and when I woke, I was in an ambulance, being transported to the hospital. I was told my mom burned in the fire, but they found no remains of my dad. The doctor said I was lucky that I didn't suffer any burns, that I must have had one hell of a guardian angel." "I'm sorry for asking. I'm sure it was a hard memory to relive. Fitz and I are at a crossroads as to the origins of your powers. It would seem the watchdogs know something about you that we don't, and if there is anything that you can remember, it would help us a lot." "It becomes more and more blurry as time passes, but if anything sticks out, I'll be sure to let you guys know." The team returns a few hours later. Robbie and Quake come walking into the lab. "Oh good, you guys are back," says Simmons. "I hope you found something useful." "I don't know how useful what we found is, but we didn't come back empty-handed," says Quake. "I don't think we've actually met. I'm Daisy, but most people around here call me Quake," she says, introducing herself. "While you guys have been running around down there, Em and I have been testing out her abilities." Simmons takes a defibrillator and connects it to Emilie's chest. She cranks the voltage and administers a charge before handing her a light bulb. She makes it light up and then places her hand over a small stack of paper, causing them to slowly lift and drift around. She can displace the electromagnetic field around objects. "I wish Lincoln was here. You could have benefited with him around," says Quake sorrowfully. Coulson comes walking in with May. Well, I have some good news and some bad news. Bad news. Give us the bad news first, says Fitz, walking quickly into the lab. All right, says Coulson. Bad news is, it looks like the watchdogs have taken an interest in human sacrifice. And the good news? Questions Emilie. We weren't one of them. Emilie gives him a weird look, and Quake just shakes her head. Robbie, I'm sending Gabe with the team to the dorm so he can continue his classes. He'll be monitored from a distance. As for you, Emilie, you're going to have to come with us. I don't feel comfortable placing you anywhere until we know why the watchdogs are so interested in you. We'll be landing at HQ in 1 hour. Emilie disconnects the defibrillator and walks out of the lab, clearly irritated. Quake finds her in the cargo hold, looking out of one of the windows. It does get easier, says Quake as she walks over to her. It was a lot for me to take in when I first got my powers. It's not that. I've spent so long hiding, not understanding what I am or why I am. Being in that booth with Robbie earlier, it was amazing. I've never really tried to test my limits. She pauses. I had no idea what I was capable of. Yet the watchdogs know something about me that I don't even know. Don't worry. Fitzsimmons are geniuses. They'll piece it all together. Who's Lincoln? Emilie asks. He was a friend, a mentor, boyfriend. He died not too long ago. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to open an old wound. It's okay. You didn't know. He could manipulate electricity, but out of thin air. He helped me learn to control my tremors. Well, if he was able to help you, maybe some of that knowledge could help me too. They land at the shield base. Robbie and Emilie say goodbye to Gabe before he leaves with the team that will be guarding him. Go save the world, Gabe says to Robbie, joking around. Go hit those books that I'm paying for, says Robbie. Technically, those books burned in the fire, so S.H.I.E.L.D. is paying for these books. Robbie smiles and gives his brother one last hug before he leaves. Quake takes Emilie by the hand. Come on, I'm going to show you around. She takes her through HQ and shows her the labs, sparring rooms, and sleeping quarters. They watch as May runs through a few exercises with her team in the sparring room. I don't think we formally met, she says. I'm May. Emilie. If you want to learn how to kick some ass, she is definitely the one to see, says Quake. May smiles and returns to her training. When they get to the sleeping quarters, Quake shows Emilie where she'll be sleeping. Simmons called ahead to get some clothes sent down here for you. She's got a decent enough fashion sense. Robbie's room is right next door, just so you know. He usually just sleeps in his car. Emilie smirks. That's his baby. Men in their cars. Quake takes her by the dining area and engineering where they find Mac and Robbie. I'll let you look, but you can't touch, says Robbie. Fair enough. But if I see something that Mac gets interrupted. No, you're not touching my car. Here we go, says Quake. Mac, this is M. Nice to meet you, he says. Your man's here was just bragging about his car. And I was just telling him, I bet without that Ghost Rider, he wasn't pushing a damn thing under the hood. I don't need the Ghost Rider car now. I put it in blood and sweat under that hood. Coulson comes walking in. I gave his car a run for its money, didn't I? Robbie points out, referring to the first time they met, when Coulson was trying to track down Robbie. I was technically steering you in the direction you needed to go. Mac looks at Robbie, not agreeing, but not disagreeing with Coulson. I just got off the phone with the director. Until we have more intel on what the watchdogs have planned, he wants us to lay low for a little while. It would seem the watchdogs are causing some political chaos in Washington. When is Washington not in chaos? Says Quake. We are to stay grounded until the Senate hearing tomorrow. The director doesn't need to explain any more than he has to about the watchdog threat. I suggest we try to get some rest and go over any findings first thing in the morning. Robbie walks over and puts his hands on Emilie's waist. You should get some sleep. You've been through a lot today. He walks her to her room and lays next to her on the bed. He runs his hand across her head until she falls asleep. That night, Emilie has a nightmare that wakes her. She dreams about the fire and her mother, her burnt body warning her of something she can't make out. She wakes in a cold sweat to an empty bed. She throws on some clothes and heads out to the garage, where she finds Robbie, dozed off in his car. She opens the passenger door, waking him, and gets in. Quake told me you had a habit of sleeping in here. Yeah, I come here to think mostly. What's on your mind? You? He looks out the window. I feel like it's my fault you're here. Robbie, don't make this your burden to carry. They knew something about me long before we even met. She rests her head on his shoulder and holds his hand. Why are you up? Nightmare. About the fire that killed my parents. I wish they were here to help me understand what I am. Come here. He rubs her leg and guides her over the gear shifter onto his lap. She faces him, looking deep into his eyes. I don't think I've ever stared so deeply into your eyes. What do you see? He asks. Pain. Sadness. Fear. Is that all? Because there's more. When I look at you, all that goes away. I don't think about the writer. I think about me and what's left of my humanity. You are my humanity. He kisses her gently, and she kisses him back. Soon they are passing kisses back and forth, smiling. I think you owe me something from earlier, she reminds him, pulling the lever and letting the seat back. Trust me, I didn't forget, he says, smiling. They hear a noise come from inside the garage and duck down. She puts her head on his chest as a flashlight passes over the car. It's security, she whispers, trying not to laugh. They lay with their heads back until the coast is clear. Let's get out of here, he says. And go where? I'm not supposed to leave the facility, she reminds him. Oh, so you're just gonna do whatever S.H.I.E.L.D. says now, huh? He says, giving her a hard time. She climbs back into the passenger seat and puts on her seatbelt. Let's get out of here. Robbie starts up the car and they speed out of HQ before security can lock down the exit. They drive for almost an hour before coming to a small town. It's been a while since I've seen one of those, he says, looking at a small Ferris wheel. Let's go, Emilie insists. Oh, so you happy we left now? He laughs. They pull into the parking lot and enter a fair. Damn, this brings back memories, he says, reminiscing. I don't think I've ever seen you so happy, points out Emilie. Sure you have. Every time you kiss me, he says, smiling. They walk over to the games. You up for a little friendly competition? They stop at a bottle game. Robbie hands the guys some money, and in return he hands them each 3 balls. You should have picked a different game, informs Emilie. Why, you got a little arm on you? Says Robbie, pinching her. She throws the ball and hits the bottles, but they barely move. Oh, I can already tell this is a waste of money, she responds. She picks up the second ball and hits the bottles, again knocking only 1 down. Oh, so close, says Robbie, trying to throw off her aim. She throws the last ball and knocks down the remaining 2. She sticks her tongue out childishly at him and then picks out a small stuffed animal for Robbie. This is how you're supposed to throw it. He winds back and throws the ball, knocking all 3 bottles down in 1 try. Holy crap, says the attendant. I don't think I've ever seen it done in 1 shot. Robbie requests the biggest elephant they have and gives it to Emilie. Cheater, she mumbles under her breath playfully. What? He says with a guilty grin. It was all me. And then some, she adds. They walk around for a little longer before deciding to head somewhere private. They take a back road through the woods and park near a clearing. You come here a lot? Asks Emilie. Just to clear my head. Why did you do it? She asked. Sell your soul. He takes a deep breath. I was reckless. This car belonged to my uncle, and I used to take it out racing. One night, Gabe caught me sneaking out, and I convinced him to go with me. There was a hit put out by a gang on my uncle. They thought you were him. They shot up the car. Gabe was hit and bleeding bad. The car flipped and I was thrown out. Right before I hit the ground, I begged for vengeance. My call was answered. Emilie climbs into his lap. So you like to race? Yeah, he says, starting to smile. So which are you better at driving? She questions. This? She grabs the shifter. Or this? She asks, grabbing the center of his pants. He laughs and then smiles, seductively biting his lip. Well, this one, grabbing the car's shifter, is made for speed, which is great for racing. But this one that you got your hand on, that one is better for maneuvering curves and tight corners. He rubs his hand across her hips. She reaches down to the side of the seat and pulls the lever, laying the seat back again. She unzips his jacket and runs her hands up his shirt and over his abs. He raises his arms up and grabs the back of the seat. She starts to unfasten his belt as she nibbles on his lip. Are you sure you want to be doing this? He says, stopping her. She throws her head onto his shoulder. Why? What's wrong? I'm not who you think I am. I don't care that you're the ghostwriter. There is no happily ever after with me. You realize that. You realize that even after learning who you are, I still got in the car with you. Besides, fairy tale princes are overrated, she says. He runs his hands across the insides of her thighs up to her button and starts to remove her pants. She giggles at the maneuvering around in the driver's seat. I swear, if we get interrupted this time, she starts, but he places a finger over her mouth. Stop interrupting, he says with a grin, just before entering her body. She gasps with surprise, not realizing how aroused she was. She didn't expect him to slide in so easily, but his entry was not disappointing. She raises up just a little and he pulls her back down. Don't get scared now, he says with fire in his eyes. Who said I was scared? She says, grinding against him. He reaches back and grabs the headrest of the seat. They each take turns grinding and sliding between each other's bodies. She wraps her arm around his neck and kisses him. Still having doubts? She teases. He smiles and slides deeper inside her. They soon come to a finish. The windows on the Charger completely fogged over. He slides his jacket over her as she lays on his chest. They sit there in silence for a few minutes before getting their clothes back on and heading back to HQ. When they pull in, Coulson is waiting for them. Enjoy your little joyride? He asks. Yeah, says Robbie with an attitude, getting out of the car. Think a little fresh air did us some good. I expect a little rebellion from you, Robbie, which is why I'm not completely surprised you left. But I didn't take you for being reckless, states Coulson. Emilie steps out of the car with her stuffed elephant. Reckless? Questions Robbie. Taking Emilie out for a joyride? Coulson catches a glimpse of the elephant. You guys went to the fair? Am I a prisoner here? Asks Emilie. Because that's what it feels like. Being locked in a room and recorded, getting poked and tased, being told I can't leave. No, you're not a prisoner. But until we know what your significance is to the watchdogs, I can have you deemed a potential threat to national security, therefore granting me the power to detain you as a prisoner." Emilie stares at Coulson angrily. "I'd rather this be a warning. Until we know more, I'd like you to remain here, where we can hopefully get some answers, not just for us, but for you as well. Fitz has been trying to track down anything that might give us some insight into your powers." Coulson turns to walk away, and Robbie takes Emilie by the hand as they walk back to her room.